Tonight, Premier Scott Moe releases a white paper on how Saskatchewan can defend economic autonomy from the federal government. Also, as the CBC investigation continues, a Saskatoon city councillor is implicated in physical and emotional abuse allegations at a private school and church. Plus, Hockey Canada's CEO and entire board of directors is out as political and corporate pressure overwhelms the organization in its handling of alleged sexual assault.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, October the 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The family of an elder from Kawacatoose First Nation claims he was both racially discriminated against and abused by staff at Regina General Hospital. The newly formed First Nations Health Ombudsperson Office is investigating. Laura Sharpaletti has the story.
These are the bruises Thomas Favel says he got while being restrained by nurses at the Regina General Hospital on September 30th. The 77-year-old renal failure patient says he was sleeping at the time.
She pushed me back, and this guy I didn't see grabbed me and slammed me onto the bed. And that's where I got bruised up on my back. And the second time he grabbed me, he slammed me onto the bed.
Both Favel and his family claim healthcare workers gave contradictory explanations for the restraint. They say they were told Favel was restrained for being delirious or for trying to run from the hospital.
Then when I went in, they told me he almost fell. So they restrained him for his own safety. But how do you come out looking like that if that's for your safety?
Favel's family claims he was treated inappropriately due to the color of his skin. He's still traveling to Regina General Hospital 3 days a week for dialysis, but his family says the elder lives in fear of the hospital. A federally funded First Nations Health Ombudsperson Office is investigating.
This is a human rights case, it's a racial discrimination case, and it's a medical malpractice case. For those nurses who haven't been named, you're going to get named. We're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Favel's daughter says she has reached out to the Saskatchewan Health Minister Paul Merriman to discuss what her father has been through. She says she has not yet received a response to her request to meet.
My family is outraged. He's an elder. We don't treat our elders like that.
In an emailed statement to the CBC, the health authority said it is sorry to hear about the concerns being raised by this family. It said it will investigate any medical and safety issues and speak to the family. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Nurse practitioners say they've been overlooked in the government's recent plan to recruit more healthcare professionals. The president of the Saskatchewan Association of Nurse Practitioners joined the opposition at the legislature today. Their concern is the province focusing on recruiting nurses from overseas. They say nurse practitioners from rural Saskatchewan could be trained. The association says it's not the first time the government has ignored them.
Efforts for recruitment outlined in the action plan exclude plans to recruit homegrown health professionals. The Rural and Remote Nurse Practitioner Recruitment Strategy, announced in 2014, which never materialized, would have significant value in addressing the gaps in healthcare seen across the province. With $3.5 million earmarked for physician recruitment and retention initiatives, with a focus on family physicians working in rural areas, it is unsettling to see that nurse practitioners were excluded.
The government says its healthcare recruitment plan will attract about 1,000 doctors, nurses, and support staff. Saskatchewan's premier says he plans to, quote, protect against federal intrusion into provincial jurisdiction. Moe presented a white paper at an event in North Battleford today. It follows the provincial government's autonomy tour over the summer. Adam Hunter has more on what's next.
The world wants what we have today.
Premier Scott Moe spent part of his summer attending town halls and what was dubbed as an autonomy tour. He also dispatched a current and former MLA to discuss how the province could increase its independence in a series of closed-door focus groups. On Tuesday, Moe revealed what those talks resulted in: a new policy paper.
We're going to be looking at legislation that is going to defend and protect the opportunity that we have to expand our jobs, to expand the size of our communities, and ultimately expand our province.
The white paper focuses in large part on how federal climate change policies will impact Saskatchewan's economy. It claims 9 policies will cost the economy $111 billion by 2035. It does not include potential revenue or economic benefits generated by pursuing alternative energy industries, nor does it calculate other factors, such as the carbon tax money the federal government returns to people via income tax rebates. Moe says the province will introduce legislation to defend Saskatchewan's rights, but would not give specifics.
Most certainly what that legislation is going to do is going to reassert our provincial rights under the Canadian Constitution. It will be within the Canadian Constitution as we respect the Constitution that we have in this nation.
Before the paper was released, opposition leader Carla Beck posted a video on social media criticizing Moe.
Standing up to the feds is important, but Scott Moe is not fighting to protect the jobs of Saskatchewan people. He's presenting this white paper to protect his own. Scott Moe is out of touch with what Saskatchewan people want and need.
Beck says Moe is not addressing issues in healthcare, education, or the cost of living. The federal government says in a statement it's focused on working with Saskatchewan to grow the economy and build a healthy future. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
The growing list of officials accused of physically and emotionally abusing children at a private Christian school and church in Saskatoon now includes a sitting city councillor. 2 former students told CBC News that longtime councillor Randy Donauer beat them with a wooden instrument, a practice known as paddling. Others say he mistreated them in other ways. As Jason Warwick reports, Donauer denies any wrongdoing.
Dozens of former students and church members say they were abused at Saskatoon's Legacy Christian Academy and adjacent Mile 2 church. That alleged abuse includes solitary confinement, exorcisms, sexual abuse, and a particularly harsh form of corporal punishment known as paddling. Nearly 24 officials are implicated in the abuse. That list now includes longtime Saskatoon City Councillor Randy Donauer, who is accused of physical and emotional abuse. Donauer is a longtime member of the church. Several students say Donauer emotionally abused them, for example, becoming enraged when they didn't sing loud enough at Sunday school. 2 students also say Donauer paddled them. One of them is Coy Nolan. He says he was surprised to remember the smallest of details.
He made me bend over, and it was weird because most of the time we had to bend over pews or bend over onto a hard chair, but like we were in like a adult counselor's office, so I actually bent on a cushy chair, and so it was a weird angle. I'm sad that I even have to say that out loud and stuff like that, but I was like bent over at a weird angle, and he proceeded to spank me 3 times on my butt.
Nolan says this was no ordinary spanking. It was done with a large wooden paddle similar to a cricket bat. He says it left him crying and limping afterward.
And then we prayed after. That was like one of the biggest things though, is just whenever they spank us, they like hold our hands and they pray with us, and it's like it's out of love, and it's weird and creepy.
Nolan says it's important to hold to account all of the officials responsible for the abuse, particularly those who are still in positions of power. Nolan says that's why he has now filed a criminal complaint against Donauer.
It makes me sick that this person has gotten to a point where he already is at and thinks that it's okay.
Donauer declined interview requests, but in an email to CBC News, he said, quote, "If there are rumors being shared about me, I vehemently deny any wrongdoing. If any legal claims involving me are made, I will vigorously defend them." More than 40 students have now filed criminal complaints against school and church officials. More than 50 have signed on to a proposed $25 million class action lawsuit. None of these allegations have been tested in court. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A major and unexpected development in the Hockey Canada saga. The head of the organization and the entire board of directors resigned today, effective immediately. These changes come amid growing outrage over the organization's handling of sexual assault allegations and its response to criticism. Ashley Burke has the latest.
the Prime Minister repeatedly called for Hockey Canada's leadership to step down. Now that's finally happened.
There's work to do to transform the culture at Hockey Canada, but today was an important first step.
After days of growing pressure, Hockey Canada's president and CEO, Scott Smith, resigned. So have the entire board of directors. Hockey Canada issued a statement saying it recognized the urgent need for new leadership and perspectives. It comes exactly 1 week after the interim board chair Andrea Skinner's defiant appearance before a parliamentary committee reviewing Hockey Canada's handling of a 2018 alleged sexual assault involving 8 players, including members of the World Junior team, as well a fund made up in part of players' fees to settle a $3.5 million lawsuit. Skinner described Hockey Canada as the victim and said the leadership team wasn't going anywhere.
Or to scapegoat hockey as a centerpiece for toxic culture is, in my opinion, counterproductive.
A tidal wave of major sponsors pushed back, dropping support entirely or sitting this season out with the men's program. Skinner then resigned over the long weekend, but the backlash didn't stop. Bauer today says it won't provide equipment to the men's team.
Huge damage to Hockey Canada because of the Board of Governors staying on too long, in my opinion. They have lost millions of dollars through sponsorship that took decades to come.
The fate of the World Juniors in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia in December also still uncertain. Both provinces' premiers say the resignations are a start, but they want more answers from Hockey Canada to decide if it's enough.
What does it mean? A change of guard, but what does that mean in terms of process and procedures, and what are they going to implement differently?
The Minister of Sport says the new leadership change must implement real change to fight sexual violence.
Starting today, we're going to work with the organization to rebuild it.
Provincial hockey federations will vote on a new board of directors in mid-December. And now that the old board is gone, the question remains, can the organization win back support from sponsors, fans, and politicians? Premier sponsor Tim Hortons says that it will not reinstate its funds to the men's hockey team until it is confident that progress has been made. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
It was a rough holiday Monday for people living near Hill Avenue and Argyle Road in South Regina. This is the incredible scene around 4:30 yesterday morning after a water main break. The city was notified shortly after, and crews isolated the line and did get it turned off. The city says ground shifting and aging infrastructure is to blame, but as you can see, the water in the leaves made a significant mess.
This water main break was larger than our average water main break. It was a larger main. We prioritize work if anyone is out of water or out of sewer service. That's number one priority, and protecting health and safety is number one priority. So this water main break was larger because the main is larger than our average water main break.
Donny says it's important for people to clear storm drains, whether that's of leaves or snow, so that when things like this happen, the water has somewhere to go. At this point, he says the city is not aware of any property or vehicle damage from the flooding. If there is damage, Donny says residents should contact their insurance company. As for the fix, the broken line requires a special piece of pipe that had to be ordered in. The city expects that to arrive in the next day or two, and then repair work can begin. No homes or businesses are without water. A final design of Saskatoon's new Central Library has been unveiled. The library will have 4 levels and will include a theater, gallery, and storytelling circle. The exterior will be themed after a teepee with a combination of transparent, translucent, and opaque glass panels. Construction is set to begin next spring, and it should be open in 2026 at a cost of $134 million. Stay with us. Ethan will be back with your weather forecast after the break. Welcome back. Starting today, many Ontario employers will be required to have an electronic monitoring policy, and they'll be required to inform their employees about it. Nisha Patel has more.
Anytime you're using a work device, your boss could be watching.
It's technically like being spied on, so it's in your right to know if that is happening.
There are agreements that you have to read through. I mean, no one does.
Watching over you more and more and stuff, and where does it stop, and it's just the beginning, so it's a little bit worrying.
Just how much are you being tracked? Workers in Ontario are about to find out. Thanks to a new law, some employers have 1 month to tell employees if they're being monitored, which legally companies are allowed to do. Experts say transparency is a good first step.
Once we know what they are actually doing, then we'll have a better sense of whether those monitoring systems are breaching any other legislation.
Quebec, Alberta, and BC have privacy laws that set some limits on data collection. While Ontario's new rules require disclosure, they don't grant additional privacy rights.
It's not really penalizing employers for monitoring the employees, nor is it really preventing them from doing so.
With Time Doctor, you can easily track the workday activities of all your employees.
With more people working from home during the pandemic, more Canadian companies turn to these tools. Software like this can monitor how often you're typing, who you're video calling. It can even take screenshots of the websites you're on.
They want an understanding of what the user is doing when they're working remotely so they can assist them in being more productive.
There's some debate about whether tracking workers can be counterproductive, with workers who know they're being watched spending more time trying to game the system. Some experts say there's a better way.
You measure productivity on the basis of outputs rather than on monitoring and micromanaging them on all the seconds of their life.
Still, in a work-from-home world, workers may be faced with a trade-off, consenting to more monitoring if it means more flexibility. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. 22 model clear-out is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It's like the long weekend ended, and so did the nice weather.
Yeah, that's right. Who says the weather doesn't have good timing, Sam? The perfect time for things to get a little cooler and windier. But let's take a little look back at those nice temperatures we had. We have 5 records broken yesterday, and most of these broken from 2015, getting well into the 20s in some places. Meadow Lake, you got to a 25.1, and that actually breaks a record set back in 1984. Leader, our hotspot at 25.5. And Regina getting pretty close at 25.4. And Regina, we actually warmed up very quickly yesterday morning. In fact, at 8 a.m. yesterday, we were sitting at 1 degree above zero. And just 4 hours later at noon, we skyrocketed 20 degrees to get to 21. And according to our astute weather watcher, Rolf Campbell out of Ottawa, who keeps weather records for cities across the country, that's the fastest temperature rise in the shortest span of time in Regina in 15 years. Since 2007. But today, a whole different story. Temperatures dropping some 10 to 12 degrees in a lot of places in south and central Saskatchewan, really all over the province, seeing a big change. Now, we are pretty much sitting at where we should be this time of year, or maybe a little bit under that, so it's not like we're dropping close to the freezing mark or anything like that. But here is why our temperatures have dropped. We're sitting in this trough in the upper atmosphere in the north of the province, seeing a little bit of unsettled weather. Cool temperatures really province-wide. We will start to move over that, but watch closely at the color gradient here. See how close these colors are together, and the closer they are together, that means the stronger the winds are, and that's why we are seeing these very strong winds today and over these next couple of days here. And even as we get into Thursday and Friday, we are still seeing those very close together. And Friday, we're kind of caught between that trough and a ridge to our west. So fair weather, we're not going to see anything really out of the ordinary except for those wind gusts. And today we had gusts very close to 70 kilometers an hour in much of the province, including in Regina. And wind is really going to be the story these next couple of days here. Gusts continuing through the night tonight, up to 60 kilometers an hour in the Churchill region. And tomorrow afternoon, I think, is when we're going to see the strongest gusts of this next stretch here. Close to 80 kilometer an hour gusts are possible in Regina and Moose Jaw. And even on Thursday, those shift a bit to the east, and we could still see up to 60 kilometers an hour in the southeast in the Parkland region. And then in the southwest, it'll be an issue on Friday. And then we finally start to see a bit of a reprieve. This low pressure system is not helping. This is what's affecting us at the surface. This cold front is what dropped temperatures. Icky conditions, to say the least, in Manitoba. We are seeing some real moisture there, but for us, it's just the wind. Through the night tonight, some mixed precipitation through the north of the province, the south staying clear, and really all of us going to be cleared out as we head into Thursday and Friday. But another low develops in Manitoba, more icky weather on the way there for the weekend. But for us, staying mostly fair and dry, I think, at this point, maybe just under where we should be this time of year. But again, very strong winds these next couple of days, really province-wide. Bit of a cool down as we head through the weekend, but temperatures should resurge as we head into the beginning of next week. In fact, looking ahead, maybe even some close to 20-degree temperatures before we head to Wednesday, Thursday. Saskatoon, again, very gusty conditions, maybe a shower or two on Friday with that system. -2 overnight Saturday, but even those overnight lows, Sam, staying warm. So the warmth not done with us quite yet.
But I'm going to follow your lead and look at the weekend and say the overnight lows are kind of icky.
That's my new word of the day, I think.
Apparently it is. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Hi! Oh my gosh, there's a flame on your shirt. Cover.
Today kicked off the 100th anniversary of Fire Prevention Week in Regina. Some students toured Fire Station number 6. They got to meet firefighters and learn more about fire safety through a series of drills. Fire Prevention Week is intended to be fun and informational, and it was started by the National Fire Prevention Association back in 1922. We'll be back after the break.
Finding answers in the water.
You know, they say a delta changes. You know, we know that. But not at the rate that it's happening.
We take you to the community of Fort Chipewyan, where scientists, elders, and land users are coming together, working to understand the impacts of climate change and industry in this historic part of Alberta. Tomorrow on CBC Saskatchewan News at 6.
Ukraine has been subjected to a second day of barrages by Russian forces. Moscow has stepped up its attacks on civilian targets and infrastructure. Ukraine reports at least 19 people have been killed and hundreds have been hurt. The eastern city of Dnipro has renewed strikes. Air raid warnings sounded there for several hours today as crews worked to clean up from yesterday's attacks. Ukraine's emergency services released these images of the aftermath of an attack in nearby Zaporizhia. The city has been target of an ongoing bombing and missile strikes and has suffered significant damage. The capital, Kiev, has also been hit with renewed attacks after several months of relative calm. More displaced Ukrainians are expected to arrive in Saskatchewan later this month. The province says around 200 Ukrainians will land in Regina October 25th. It will be the third humanitarian flight to land in Saskatchewan since the war began. The first one seen here arrived in early July. The province is organizing the project in partnership with the organizations Solidaire and Open Arms. Together, they pledge to work together on up to 5 humanitarian flights into Saskatchewan by the end of March of next year. And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather. Icky?
Indeed. Well, don't let the sunny conditions fool you, Sam, because those winds going to be icky, up to 50 kilometers an hour already at 8 a.m. in Regina. Temperature not increasing all that much as we get to noon, and those winds out of the northwest close to 60. And Regina will be in good company when it comes to those winds, already gusting over 50 kilometers an hour by the time we get to 8 a.m. in Saskatoon, and only 11 degrees by the noon hour. That is pretty close to average for this time of year. Again, northwest gusts close to 60. Now, if you missed it over the weekend, we had the October full moon. The hunter's moon corresponds with when hunters usually prepare for winter, and they can more easily see those animals thanks to leaves falling on the trees. And if you missed it, well, don't worry, because Than got this great shot in Saskatoon. Nice big moon, nice orange colors too, Sam. It's a beautiful time of year for a nice, beautiful full moon.
Amazing. 'Tis the season.
It is.
All right. Well, that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.